Words so sharp, they cut right through. Real talk for the soul's appeal. Prayers rise up the wounds they heal. Lift our voices to the sky. A righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down. For the Father wears the crown. Each step brings another fight. Breaking chains, we're seeking light. Voice of power won't be tamed. With His love, we're never ashamed. Lift our voices to the sky. A righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down. For the Father wears the crown. From the ashes we shall rise. Hope is found deep in our eyes. Every word a battle cry. With the Father none deny.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to A Righteous Perspective in the Morning. I'm your host, Wise, and I appreciate you all pulling up this morning. Happy Friday to each and every one of you guys. Ooh-wee, man. It's been the weeks are flying by. I can't say that it's been a long week. It really hasn't, in my opinion. You know, no disrespect to you, to those of you that feel like it's been long, but it seems like Monday was yesterday. It seems like it. But we got a great show. We got a lot to get into today. I know you guys seen the thumbnail, seen the title. We got a lot to get into. Before we do so, I want to make sure I show some love to the folks in the chat, man. I appreciate you all pulling up. First and foremost, man, shout out to Big Job Ford. Appreciate you pulling up, man. First person to drop in the chat. Scott Jung, he beat you to the punch today. He beat you to the punch by a minute, but appreciate you all pulling up, man. What's going on, Terry Stewart? Let me know in the chat where you watching from, city, state, country. This thing is international, man, and we got people that join the ARP family from all across the world, man. It is phenomenal. So humbled, man, to be honest with you, man. So humbled that is the case, man, and I appreciate you all pulling up, man. Shout out to PK Krillin. We got Savannah, Tennessee in the building this morning. What's up, USA? Bobby Sprinkle. Appreciate you pulling up, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. I believe that's Alabama. What's up, Delinda? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up. Yeah, Mr. Gerber, I was rushing this morning, so I needed to get, a thumbnail up. I'll probably change it, once the show is over with, but appreciate you pulling up this morning. Oregon in the building. What's going on, Lena? How you doing? We got Kansas City in the building. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. What's up, Christy? Chi-Town in the house. Nurse Lisa out of Georgia. What's up, Dion? How you doing, sister? I hope all is well with you. St. Louis in the building. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. I hope everybody enjoys the weekend. It's going to be nice out here. Finally, we're finally getting some good weather out here, in the DMV, man. So I'm gonna try to get out, play a little bit of golf tomorrow, Lord willing, and just kind of enjoy the weekend a little bit. What's going on, Maria? We got New Jersey in the building. We got Iowa in the building. Sean Howard, what's up with you, brother? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Nameless one, appreciate you pulling up this morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. James Reddick, appreciate you pulling up. Veronica, PA in the house. Cambria, appreciate you pulling up. What's up, Yvette? How you doing this morning? True Texan in the building. What's going on? We got Washington State in the building. What's up, Regina? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up, sister. West Virginia in the building. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Levittown, PA in the house. James Reddick, man, appreciate you pulling up this morning. First live stream. Appreciate you pulling up this morning, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What's up, Jill? Jill Carlson, Connecticut in the house. Reza Mahmood, appreciate you, brother. As always, good morning to you. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Shout out to JR, Utah in the building. Let's go. All right, Gerard Caswell, appreciate you, brother, supporting the channel on a day-to-day basis, man. God bless you, man. Thank you very much. He says, good morning, ARP family. Hope everyone is having a blessed day. In quietness and trusting confidence, I find strength. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 15. Praise the Lord. I love that. Let's go. I love that. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. What's up? Is it Teresa? No, I'm sorry. Thread Sohara. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Thank you very much. Miko, appreciate you pulling up this morning. We got the Bronx in the building. Larry Montgomery, Northern California. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all pulling up this morning. Thank you. What's up, Denise Harvey? How you doing this morning, sister? Appreciate you pulling up. All right. Yeah, we got Denise out of Georgia. Where you at in Georgia, Denise? You know, that's my old stomping ground. I lived there for a little bit. It's been a while since I lived there, but I do go there because my family lives out there. And I'm down in Georgia at least once or twice a year, and sometimes, longer. But I've kind of gave up on the Falcons. I'm rocking Falcon gear just because I like the black and I like the hat. But I'm pretty much done, with the Falcons, man. I live in the Baltimore area, and it's about Lamar Jackson and these Baltimore Ravens, man. I do keep an eye on what's going on down there, in Atlanta, but I'm pretty much about done with those dudes, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. What's up, Pat F? We got York, PA in the building. Not too far away. Okay, not too far away. Oh, yeah. All right. Want to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Barry, how you doing this morning? Narissa Zane, appreciate you pulling up this morning, sister. Thank you very much. Gina King, appreciate you pulling up this morning. Sid Pick, all right. We got Boston in the building. Fairfax in the building. Thank you, Miko. Appreciate the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Punta Gorda, Florida in the building. Yeah. All right. We got Thea Flies High, Roscoe, New York in the house. What's up with you, sister? Appreciate you pulling up. Tree Nug, appreciate you pulling up this morning. Jersey Shore, what's up, Robert Phillips? How you doing this morning? 2020 Vision, Atlanta, but the Flock Nation. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. San Diego. Okay, that's what's up, Narisa. Appreciate you pulling up this morning, sister. Thank you very much. We got a lot of Californians in here, man. A lot of Californians in here, man. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Central Florida, Plant City, Florida, North Carolina, New Hampshire. Oh, yeah. What's up, Francis? Horn Lake, Mississippi, Louisiana, Rapture, Georgia. All right. Man, y'all all over the place. North Carolina, Augusta, Georgia in the building. I like Augusta, man. I got some great golf courses out there too. Obviously, Augusta National, but even the ones outside of that, man, there's some nice golf courses out there. What's up, WR Tootsie, Yuma, Arizona in the building. Appreciate you. New Mexico in the house. Ohio, man. Thank you, Tree Nug. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Oh, man, Southwest Combat Vet in the building. What's good with you, brother? Good morning to you. Elizabeth, New Jersey. Y'all got the base out there, the ammo base out there. Oh, yeah, North Las Vegas. All right. What's up, Rashid? How you doing this morning, brother? Salute to you. God bless you, man. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. We got Lynn B1 in the building. Baltimore in the house. That's what's up. Be more, sister. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Indianapolis, Connecticut, more Florida, more Connecticut, Vegas. Oh, man. Austin, Texas in the building. Okay. What's up, B? How you doing this morning, sister? Appreciate you pulling up. We got Kenneth Ball out of Arkansas. Baby Lungs in the building. Burnsville, Minnesota. We got Illinois in the building. All right. That's what's up, man. I appreciate you all, man. Renee Carroll out of Tennessee, South Carolina. Oh, yeah. Phoenix, Arizona in the building. Texas, Griffin, Georgia. Okay. Okay. I got some folks from down there too, down in Griffin. My sister actually went to college not too far away from Griffin. I can't think of the name of the school, but it's I guess a smaller college, not too far away from Griffin, Georgia. Maybe a little bit further down, but not too far out. But I got some folks from down that way. All right, Fort Myers in the building, El Paso in the building. I got people from El Paso. One of my uncles was in the army out there, so like all his kids, my cousins, were born and raised, out there in El Paso. Out there in El Paso, Texas, man. 2020 Vision says Raven Nation, baby. I like it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a big Ravens fan. For those of you all that don't know, I grew up in Georgia, so I do have, Atlanta gear, and you can't grow up in the Atlanta area and not have a few A hats, and I got those as well. But I go to a lot of Baltimore Ravens games. At least 4 to 5, maybe more, depending on the weather. I don't do cold weather games. I'd rather watch the games at the house than go sit out in the cold. That's just me. I'm not that hardcore to go sit in the cold. I'd rather, watch it at home when it's freezing cold outside. I've gone to a few cold games and I learned that's not for me. We got Warner Ribens in the building, Moore, Tennessee. Okay. What's up, Mika? What's up, Teresa? How you doing this morning? What's up, Sharon? How you doing this morning? Good morning. Jackson, New Jersey. Chiefs Nation. Gerard, hey, I got a lot of love for you, man, but Chiefs, y'all like our arch nemesis right now. For real. We got Suzanne out of Georgia. We got more out of Massachusetts. What's up, Doc Holiday? Thank you for the $5 super chat. Good morning from Mississippi. What is the name and the artist of the song in the intro? I've tried typing lyrics and everything. I can't find it. Unfortunately, yes, you won't be able to find it. I had the song created and made just for me and for this channel. So you're not going to be able to find this song on any other platform other than this one, because it was, written and performed and all that kind of good stuff, for me. So yeah. But I will, if anybody that's a part of the ARP family, you do have access to it. If you look in the video, that's members only. Anybody that's part of the ARP family has access to that song. So it is there. All right, man. Let's get the show going. Shout out to Dragon Master Zero with gifting 5 ARP family memberships. Shout out to you, brother. Appreciate you pulling up. B, what happened last night? Please tell me. And thank you, Dragon Master Zero. What happened? I know yeah, please tell me what happened. If you can't tell me on this, reach out to me. You should know how to reach out to me directly. So, all right. Jeffrey Wisnot, home of Dolly Parton. Okay, I'm assuming that's Nashville. All right. Let's get the show started, man. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. We got New Orleans in the building. All right. All right. Before we get things kicked off, please make sure you guys hit the like button. We have 245 people in here, man. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Share the stream with people that need to see and hear this information and hear what we got going on over here. We'd love them to come join us in the chat. Come join us, and be a part of the ARP family Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Just so you guys know, I think I mentioned this earlier in the week. I do plan on interviewing Sheldon Daniels. He is the young man that is challenging Jasmine Crockett for her seat, for her representative seat out of District 30 in Texas. We will have him on the channel if either Monday or Tuesday. We're trying to get the kind of coordinate the dates and things of that nature, but we'll have him up. We'll get a chance to talk to him. And I want to make sure that we can share some and shed some light on him. Obviously, he's fighting and going against the machine. I mean, Jasmine Crockett, she has about $1.5 million in resources financially. She has the financial backing. He's definitely going against the machine. So his efforts is going to be, it's a grassroots movement for him, it's a grassroots movement, but hopefully getting him on independent platforms like this one and others out there, and he can kind of make the rounds in the circuits. We can get behind him, because it's going to be one of those races out there that I think it's going to be a national race, not in the sense that people can vote nationally, but it's on the radar, on a national level. So hopefully, like I said, it would either be Monday or Tuesday. I'm not for sure if it's going to be live or if we're going to do pre-recorded, but either way, it will be premiered on the stream. Even if I do it pre-recorded, it'll be just something that we add to the live stream, either Monday, Tuesday, or probably, if it happens on Tuesday later in the day, we'll have it premiered here on the live stream on Wednesday. So Lord willing, we'll get that up and running. And we're in talks, with his people there. So we'll make that happen. As I always tell you guys, Super Chat, stop the show. Super Thanks, stop the show. Anybody that joins the ARP family, that will stop the show, and they will be acknowledged as well. Appreciate the love and support, man. I appreciate everybody that supports the channel. But the number one way to support the channel is obviously hitting that like button and sharing the stream with those that need to see it, man. So I appreciate the love, man. I do appreciate the love. Let's get things kicked off, man. Goodness gracious, man. This is where we are in 2025, man. So you had protesters, as you can see here, storm Trump Tower in Manhattan yesterday, chanting "Free Mahmoud," "Free Palestine," and demanding the release of Mahmoud Khalil, a pro-Hamas activist detained by ICE. Now, let's be clear. This isn't just a protest. This isn't just a protest. This is an organized, targeted occupation of a private building by radical activists. This is what this is. They stormed Trump Tower, blocked entrances, and refused to leave, screamed anti-American slogans, and physically resisted arrest. And who are they protesting for? Who are these people protesting for? A Columbia University activist born in Syria, an open anti-American who led violent protests at Columbia, a guy who openly justified Hamas's terror. That's who they're protesting right now. I mean, I would say it's unbelievable, but nothing is unbelievable when it comes to these people. Yeah, and that is who they are protesting for. Justifying terror isn't the only thing that he likes to do. That's not the only thing. I mean, take a look at what his group did at Columbia University. I mean, you'd like to believe that this isn't happening in the United States of America, but the left and these liberals, they've championed this type of stuff. They've put the battery, on these people's backs to behave like this.
You're not doorstop or something, right?
Undergrad admissions! Undergrad admissions! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Students, hold your ground!
Students, hold your ground!
NYPD back down!
NYPD back down!
Students, hold your ground!
Students, hold your ground!
NYPD back down!
NYPD back down!
Students, hold your ground!
Students, hold your ground!
NYPD back down!
NYPD back down!
Students, hold your ground!
Students, hold your ground!
This is crazy. This is crazy. I'd say if somebody would have told me 10 or 15 years ago that we'd have college students doing this, I wouldn't have believed you. Seriously. I would not have believed you. I wouldn't have. I would not have believed you. This isn't some faraway place. This isn't some faraway place. And I don't know if you guys know, Columbia University, man, it costs a lot of money to go there. These universities that these kids, have gotten just extremely radicalized at, it costs a lot of money to attend. This is not some far away place. I mean, this is happening right here at one of the top universities in the country. And Mahmoud Khalil is right in the middle of it all. And that's why ICE is after him now. That's why. Khalil was one of the main leaders of the anti-Israel protest at Columbia University. He helped organize sit-ins, set up protest camps, and led demonstrations that turned violent. His followers, they smashed windows, blocked people from getting around campus, scared the heck out of Jewish students. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for free speech. I'm all for the freedom to protest, the freedom to assemble. But what they're doing right now, they're crossing the line. When you start crossing the lines into violence, I mean, that's at some point you got to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, you can't cross this. You can't do this. Shout out to Miko Tanaka for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you very much. Appreciate you supporting the channel. God bless you. Thank you very much. I mean, these protests, they've gotten out of control. Seriously. People started fighting. And the police had to step in and make a bunch of arrests. And in one case, a pro-Israel counter-protester was attacked. And the damage to the campus, we're talking the damage to the campus buildings, we're talking damage up into the thousands. I would assume probably the high thousands of dollars. And the chaos didn't stop there. Under Khalil's leadership, these protests turned into riots. Classes were canceled. Graduation ceremonies ruined. And students and teachers, they were afraid for their safety, and for good reason. And now Khalil is facing deportation because the Trump administration, he's not playing. They're not playing around with these people. And ICE says he's a national security risk because of his ties to pro-Hamas propaganda and actions that support terrorism. And here's the thing, Khalil isn't a U.S. citizen. He's not. He has a green card, which means he's allowed to live and work here legally, but that doesn't mean he has the full rights of a U.S. citizen. He doesn't. Think of it like renting an apartment. And as long as you live there, and you follow the rules, you're good. But if you break them, the landlord can kick you out. Simple as that. And that's what's happening here. ICE says Khalil broke the rules and now he should be sent back. A green card holder doesn't make you a citizen. Green card holders can't vote. They can't serve on a jury. They don't have all the protections that a U.S. citizen has. They don't. Plus, if they break immigration laws or pose a security threat, they can be deported. And that's exactly what ICE is saying about Khalil. That's exactly what they're saying about him.
I don't think hate speech is actually the issue. He's a resident alien. He can be deported under U.S. law for if the Secretary of State has any reasonable ground to believe he would have a potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequence. And you mentioned the student organization. The student organization put out. Let me finish.
But before you move on, because I think that's a really important point, right? That's the statute that they're using.
Yeah.
Have you seen any evidence to suggest that there is actually a serious reason to believe that this student is going to be a threat to to national security?
I've certainly watched the abomination that's gone on at Columbia and Barnard and other places, and I will just tell you,
threat to national security.
And I'll just tell you that
I'm not going to let you move on because this is the
I'll tell you why it's a threat to national security if you let me answer you.
Well, Scott,
do you want me to answer you or not?
Okay.
His organization says we are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
I don't want to move on.
That right there is a threat. That right there. And she didn't want him to say it on air. She didn't want him to say that on air, but let's listen to it again.
Of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's
okay.
His organization says we are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
That sounds like a threat to me. Shout out to Kim Jordan for the $5 super sticker. Thank you very much. God bless you. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Thank you very much. That sounds like a threat to me. I don't know about y'all, but when someone comes into your house and says, hey, I am about the full eradication of everybody in your home, that sounds like a threat. That sounds like a threat to me. When someone comes in your country and says something along these lines, sounds like a threat.
We are dedicated fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization.
Okay.
He's not a citizen. He doesn't need to be here.
I don't want to move on.
How can they even defend this? How are they defending this? How are they defending a man who is in our country saying that they are dedicated to eradicating Western society and civilization? How is this individual not a threat? And why are these people defending this foolishness? Why? Why are they defending this guy? I mean, come on, man. Scott's 100% right. Scott's 100% right. She did not want the audience to hear that this guy called for the complete eradication of Western civilization. That's why she was blocking him. She was trying to cut him off and keep him from saying what he said. They're trying to act like that wasn't a threat. It's a full-on threat. Why does the propaganda machine always fight for the people calling for the end of the West, but they never fight for Americans? Why? I'm at a point now where I don't know if it's even worth sending your kids to these American universities, man. Seriously. Shout out to B-Mark for the $2.99 super sticker. Thank you very much. Appreciate you supporting the channel, man. God bless you, man. Thank you. I'm at a point now where I don't think it's worth sending your kids to these daggone American universities. Most of them aren't learning anything. I'm almost at a point now to where I don't even know if it's worth sending your kid to any American school, public-wise. If they're receiving money from the federal government, I don't know if it's worth it. I think people are going to have to start to bite the bullet, tighten the belt loops up, and educate your own children. For anybody that is an educator that is not in line with this far left, super progressive Marxist agenda, there are some opportunities out there for you if you are an educator. I think people need to start thinking about creating cohorts to educate these children and make sure they in homeschooling cohorts that they can educate these children. From an academic standpoint, if you really feel like you have to have a college degree, nowadays you can do it online. You can do the schoolwork without the indoctrination. I don't know if I would want to send my kids into these daggone public school indoctrination camps. My oldest son joined the military. My youngest son, he didn't want to do it. My youngest son is in college. He's working, goes to the local community college. Most of his classes are online right now. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think all of his classes are online right now. But even for him, I'm like, and I was telling him, I was like, son, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Any of these kids that go to these campuses, man, people got to understand that your brain is still forming from 18 to 25. And you send your 18-year-old, your 17, 18, 19-year-old kid off to one of these colleges, everything that you taught them, they're going to be brainwashed by the time you get them back. By the time you get them back, you're not going to know who the person you sent there isn't the person that comes back home. But I got off on a daggone tangent. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But this dude, Khalil, he's got these students, these leftist students, these leftist radicals so riled up. Some of them are saying this, this is an affront to free speech, which you could argue that if you wanted to argue that peacefully. But I don't exactly agree. You can go ahead and argue that all you want, but, set up a little podium in Union Square or something and go off. If it's just speech. But these people are committing acts of violence. They're, committing vandalism. The things that these people are doing, though, it's just mad. In the Trump Tower, the fact that they went there and decided that would be okay to do, it's just crazy. And at the Trump Tower, there's armed security everywhere and surveillance on every corner. So now you got to ask yourself, how'd they even get in? And why is the media pretending that all of this is just fine because the target is Trump and his people? You got to ask yourself these questions. Seriously. You got to ask yourself that. It's almost no coverage on this except for Fox News, of course. There's almost zero coverage. There's coverage on the local level, but on the national level, there's like no coverage except on Fox. Now, the New York Police Department, they did arrest nearly 100 of these protesters yesterday. They did. And the real question is, will they actually face any real consequences? Because we know in places like New York, they like to give people slaps on the wrist. We know this. You can jump on a police officer and they will let you out the same day. That's happened in New York City. So you got to ask, are these people actually going to face some real charges, or is this just going to be another case where, they get a quick booking, a quick slap on the wrist, and they're back out on the streets to do it all over again tomorrow? We've seen this before. Compare it to how different, how different groups have been treated in the past. When you look at the J6 protesters, a lot of these people were locked up for years. A lot of these people didn't even get due process. Many thrown into solitary confinement, lives destroyed. But the 2020 BLM riots, most of those people walk free with barely any charges. And let's not forget, Kamala Harris literally helped to fund a lot of these folks' bail. And now We already know what the leftist media is going to say. This isn't an insurrection. These aren't terrorists. This isn't domestic terrorism that's going on. They're just passionate activists standing up for justice. And my thing is that if these people feel, if they're that up in arms about what's going on over there, get on a plane and take your butt over there and go fight with these people. Go get on the front line. Go grab an arm and get over there and handle your business. Why are you over here protesting? The fight is across the sea. Go take your butt over there. Now I know some of these people, I'm sure, they wouldn't even take you. But go over there. If you really feel like you need to stand up for justice, the best way, go over there and go stand shoulder to shoulder with these people. I mean, seriously. The Trump Tower is private property. The U.S. Capitol is a public government building. If protesting inside a public building is considered an insurrection, then how is storming and taking over a private building not considered the same? I mean, these people refused to leave when they were ordered, disrupted businesses, and put law enforcement at risk. Some even destroyed property. By the left's own logic, this should be worse than J6. It should be. But will we see CNN and MSDNC losing their minds over this threat to democracy? Of course not. Because once again, the rules only apply to conservatives. And here's the hard truth, man. This is just the beginning. These radical protests, they aren't slowing down. They're actually escalating. The left is losing its grip, and they know it. And that's why they're throwing Molotov cocktails at Tesla dealerships, harassing Tesla owners, and openly calling for the end of Western civilization at pro-Hamas protest. They will do anything to stop President Trump. They'll do anything. And when they can't manipulate the elections, when they can't use their usual corrupt tactics, they'll turn to violence because they feel like that's the last option for them. That's the only move that they have left. No matter what Trump does, they will never agree with them. Not on one single thing. There was a guy out there, he said, he's absolutely right. He said that President Trump or someone in the cabinet could come up with a cure for all cancers. And they would hate him and they would shout him down and they would say that no one's going to be allowed to use the treatment. They wouldn't stand up and clap for that. I mean, these people are ridiculous. And this brings me to my next story here. Because I am excited. I am excited to see how the left, how those in the media are going to try and spin this one. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. How are they going to spin this? I thought I had it up already.
How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his goal. And that's what I'm working for. How about no tax on tips? How about no tax on overtime? How about no Social Security? How about all those things? These are the kind of thoughts that will change America. I know what his goal is. No tax for anybody who makes less than $150,000 a year. That's his goal. And that's what I'm working.
That would be a game changer. No tax on anyone who earns less than $150,000 per year. That would be game changing. The average American earns about $66,000 a year. That's about the average. So you're talking probably 80% of Americans not paying federal tax. What would that do for the economy? What would that do What would that do for the economy? That type of spending power. What would that do? I mean, that would be game changing. It would. Now, the big question is how? And it's a big how. How would the left argue against this one? How would they do it? How would the left argue against no tax on anybody earning less than $150,000? How would they argue against it? I can already hear the left. I can already hear the media scrambling, trying to spin it into something negative. I could hear it. And according to 2022 figures from the Census Bureau, 93% of Americans age 15 and older earn less than $150,000 per year. So 93%. And the thing is that you think about the kids. My son got his first job. He's been working on it now for a little over a year or so. Got his first job, and he was working these hours, and he got his check and was like, wait, they done took almost half my money. I was like, yeah, so there's this thing called taxes. And then he was asking, hey, what's this this FICA thing, this Medicare thing, and what is that? And I had to explain that to him. I was like, oh yeah. They take your bread before you even see it. I mean, it's crazy. So when you look at it, of adults, people over 18, we're probably looking at, 80% plus. But when you look at people that work, because that number, you drop it down to 15 because you figure most states you could start working at 15. In some places, in some situations, you could start working younger. But typically the age is 15 to get that work permit and start working. So you're looking at 93% overall of the working population would not have to pay taxes on their income on the federal level. The states are going to do what they do. But on the federal level, I mean, that would be huge. That would be huge. If this plan is implemented, taxes will be gone for most of the country. When you start talking about, 80+% of working adults and overall 90+% of the country not paying taxes, that's hardworking families. That's small business owners, teachers, nurses, truck drivers. Basically, the entire backbone of this country getting a massive break under Trump's America First vision. So how would this happen? How could this happen? Commerce Secretary Lutnick was on Fox News the other day saying how Trump can make this happen. He was on Fox News the other day talking about how President Trump can make this happen. Check this out for yourself.
The president balances the budget. His first move is going to be, he has suggested that he would like to waive taxes for people under $150,000. That's aspirational, that when we balance the budget, and let me tell you, he's got a plan to balance this budget, right? We are going to take $1 trillion out of the waste, fraud, and abuse of all of our entitlements and all of our systems and all of our waste, and then we are going to raise $1 trillion. That's the Trump card, the Trump gold card, is going to be a huge revenue producer. Tariffs are going to be a huge revenue producer. And then getting rid of all the tax scams like Ireland making $75 billion budget surplus. We've got all the ships of the world having Liberian. I mean, imagine a Liberian flag so they get out of paying U.S. taxes. You cut all that stuff out, you got a balanced budget. But on the way, we're going to cut no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security.
Now, that's quite a feat right there. That's quite a feat right there. If President Trump can accomplish this, if he can accomplish this, he'll go down as probably the greatest president of all time. It won't be close. He'll go down as the greatest president of all time. But let's not get too excited yet. There are some big ifs in there. This would be after they cut $1 trillion off the budget and raise $1 trillion from Trump's gold card. So in order for this to happen, Doge has to step it up. They have to keep cutting unnecessary spending, waste, fraud, abuse. They got to do it. They got to do all of that so the American people can get to keep more of their money. And this makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And it has been tried before, actually. It's been tried before. It's been talked about before. This isn't, some new phenomenon. It's not. It's been talked about before. Check this out.
Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody. Waste we should be getting rid of even if we didn't have a deficit. Sure, some of these cuts aren't that big, but no amount of waste is acceptable. Not when it's your money. Not at a time when so many Americans are already cutting back. Just as families are living within their means, government should too. Did you know the federal government pays for a website devoted to a folk music ensemble made up of forest rangers? They're called the Fiddlin' Foresters. I'll put their music on my iPod, but I'm not paying for their website. And there are hundreds of similar sites that we should consolidate or just get rid of. By the way, you're not only paying for websites no one needs, you're paying for thousands of buildings all across the country no one uses. For the last decade, the government's owned a massive and completely empty warehouse in the middle of Brooklyn, for example. Now, the government hadn't been able to sell this building and others like it because of red tape and Washington politics that held things up for years. But we're finally cutting through all that and plan to get rid of these buildings in the months ahead. We need to step up our game. We need to go after every dime. We need to make government work for you. That's why, starting today, I've asked the Vice President to lead a renewed effort to hunt down misspent tax dollars in every agency and department of this government. We're calling it the Campaign to Cut Waste, and I know Joe's the right man to lead it, because nobody messes with Joe.
There's a new standard by which the government is going to function from this point on. The American people are entitled to transparency. Look, a lot of this depends on new, sophisticated methods, but it also, we know, depends on relentless focus on making this a priority. Focus that can't be delegated. We're holding ourselves accountable, and we're deeply committed and focused on making government function better. We're not just eliminating fraud and waste. We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue. We're going to give you the government you expect and deserve.
Hey. You know what doesn't make sense to me? You know what doesn't make sense to me? Is why is it that when Republicans come up with an idea, make it popular, and actually start cutting waste, suddenly it's a bad idea? Suddenly it's a bad idea. I mean, imagine if Trump and Elon did a split screen address to the nation, repeating Obama and Biden word for word with Obama and Biden right there beside them. I mean, that would be hilarious. It would. But let's keep it a buck. This whole cutting wasteful spending thing didn't actually happen back then. And if it did, people would have been upset. People would have been upset. Leave it to old Joe. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot. What if this administration is playing the long game? And I hope that they are. I mean, we've seen, how the stock market, isn't looking too great right now. But what if that's the plan? What if the goal is to reshape the US economy? Short-term pain for long-term gains. I mean, think about it. A market drop could push investors toward US Treasury bonds. That in turn might put pressure on the Federal Reserve to slash interest rates, allowing the government to refinance its debt at near zero cost. Lower rates could then trigger a deflationary trend, bringing down prices on goods and services across the board. And at the same time, I think Biden's, using tariffs, as a major lever. But, if we're, hitting imports with tariffs, and not Biden, but Trump, but if we're hitting imports with tariffs, he could force companies to move their manufacturing back to the US to avoid the extra costs. That alone could boost domestic jobs. But then if other countries retaliate with their own tariffs, it could limit how much American farmers actually can actually export, meaning they'd have to sell more here at home, which could lower grocery prices for the US consumers. And here's where it gets really interesting. What percentage of Americans own stocks? Something like 8 to 10% of people control nearly all of it. So if the market crashes, the wealthiest take the biggest hit. That could actually shift money away from the elites and toward everyday people, especially if the cost of living, like food prices, drop. We always talk about how, C-19, was the greatest transfer of wealth in history. But what if this, if done right, could actually spread more wealth evenly? I don't know. It's just a thought. But I want to hear what you guys think about this. Could this be the play? Could that be the ploy? Or, am I giving the administration, entirely too much credit? Shout out to John C. Love our. I think he says, is it love your content and delivery? Keep it coming. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for the $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. Makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, that's just a theory. Just a theory. But it makes a lot of sense. It does. Over the last 4 years, when they said that the market, was doing well, but most people didn't really have money to invest in the market. So the people that was really making a lot of money were, the people that, making the high 100,000s. I would say probably the top 15 to 20% of earners in the country. Those were the people that had the money to actually invest in the market. And they were making money hand over fist because the previous administration did everything that they could to prop up the market. And now we got some hard decisions being made. And the market has taken a drop. But if anybody knows anything about the market, you look for these opportunities because these are the best times to buy. When the market takes these types of turns, this is the best time to buy. So if you're thinking about, I need to stay out the market because it just dropped. No, these are buying opportunities. These are opportunities to buy. When you look at Bitcoin, and I'm not a financial, financial advisor, but when you look at Bitcoin and the fact that it was, $103,000, dollars per Bitcoin 2 months ago, and you look at it today and it's dropped, pretty significantly. It's dropped about 20%. But at this point now, we know where it's headed. These are buying opportunities. Just saying, something to think about. But I want to switch gears. I want to switch gears a bit to Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama and her brother, who I must say, that dude looks a little on the zestier side of things. I don't know what's going on with the Robinson family, but that dude looks a little bit on the zestier side of things. That's all I'm going to say. But Michelle Obama just started a podcast. And, you know, if you didn't know about it already, don't worry. It turns out you're not alone. I hadn't watched, you know, but a few clips of it, you know, but if you hadn't heard about it, you're not alone. You know, and Nina, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Again, I am not a financial advisor, so do not take your financial advice from me. But I'm just saying, when you see the dips, those are buying opportunities. That's all I'm gonna say. But if you hadn't heard about Michelle Obama's new podcast, you're not by yourself. You're not alone in this. I mean, we're talking about, you know, a woman, and I don't want to hear from you guys in the chat. We're just going to say we're talking about a woman who was the first lady of the United States, whose name recognition is through the roof, who had every mainstream media outlet hyping her up. And yet the numbers on this podcast is brutal. After an entire day online, her first 2 episodes only racked up a few thousand views on YouTube. This is a former first lady here. Former first lady.
And wondering where Michelle Obama's been. She snubbed both Jimmy Carter's funeral and Trump's inauguration. And last week, Barack went to a basketball game all by himself. Turns out Michelle's been busy working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them were probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, you know, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, you know, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3 o'clock departure means you've done all that, you know? It's like, don't start looking for your glasses, you know, at the 3 o'clock departure. But he's improved over 30 years of marriage. But that was you must adjust.
Michelle says her husband doesn't really like people, doesn't know how to talk to him, and doesn't even really care.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much
2
time
days to check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs, and golfing takes as long as the first session of our, you know, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Hate to break it to Michelle, but guys don't get deep on the course. Normally, when someone rags on their spouse, there's usually a little love. Like, you know, Jimmy, he never listens, but he looks cute in his suit. But that wasn't cute. Did she drop this podcast to distance herself from Barack so she could run for president? Every politician starts a podcast right before they launch their next campaign. Looking at you, Gavin. And it turns out Michelle wasn't the only one who had problems with Barack when he was in office. Michelle says the kids were embarrassed too.
Every year we'd have the turkey pardoning. And that was the one thing that the girls would do at Barack, was to go stand next to him when he pardoned this turkey.
Yes.
And it was cute when they were little, but as they got older, you could see on their faces in the shots of them thinking, I would just poke my eyes out. Just right now, just get me out of here. I'm standing with my father telling these stupid jokes, you know, next to a turkey. So by the time we got to the last year, the last turkey pardoning, they were done. They were just like, I'm out. I'm not going.
Michelle also revealing that she didn't want her husband running for president. That makes 2 of us.
Being married to the president of the United States thing.
Yeah.
that none of us kind of banked on. I mean, we knew Barack was smart and, you know, ambitious, but, you know, I think, but you talked me into supporting his run.
I did.
Because I was definitely like, nope, no way, this is crazy. We've done enough crazy stuff.
That's right. That's right. Barack came to me and he's like, you know, I can't convince your sister to go along with this. And I'm like, whoa, go along with what? And it's like, I think I'm going to run for president. And I was like, what? I convinced you to not penalize him for being really good at what he does.
Shout out to Jeff from It's Not Your Fault. He says that she bought views. Laugh out loud, shaking my head. She should have just mimicked your channel and she would have been fine. Thank you very much, Jeff. Shout out to, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the $11 super chat. Thank you. If she mimicked this channel, man, she'd be canceled in no time. The left wouldn't dare let her talk about the things that we talk about over here. They wouldn't let her do it. Okay. All right. So we have, is it Evaristo says that her brother is married. We'll type that up there. And I would say married to who, but you know, hey, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole there. But hey, this was brutal. This was brutal. You know, this was brutal. I kind of feel for him. I kind of feel for the man. I mean, you got a podcast. You're in podcast. You know, all the clips are talking about your husband. I'd feel a kind of way. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I'd feel a certain kind of way. You know, if my wife was on a show talking about me in anything, you know, but a positive light. You don't get on a show like this and talk about me like that. You don't do that. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I would not be happy about it. Seriously. Shout out to Jeff for the $11 super chat. He says, I have to say it, forgive me, but they are not attractive woman. Jacked up mouth. Sorry, I had to. Jeff, you ain't never learned, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Come on now. I know you had a good Catholic upraising. You know, I'm sure you were brought up properly. Man, but I would feel a kind of way, you know, if my wife was on a podcast talking crazy about me. I wouldn't like it. I just wouldn't. But Michelle's podcast, it's not doing well. It's not doing as well, you know, as I'm sure she thought it would have been. I mean, this is a person that came out with a book that's a New York bestseller. Not that that means much, because what we do know is that a lot of these books that find themselves on the New York's bestseller list, a lot of the times they get bought up. If somebody's got enough money that they can buy 1 million books and then give them away, your book can be on the New York's bestsellers list. It can happen, you know, and I think that's what happens a lot of the times, you know, when these people come out with these books. You'll get some, you know, wealthy individual that say, oh yeah, we'll buy 1 million of your books or so, and that will get you up on the list. But it looks like barely anyone is watching this podcast. It looks like it for now. You know, now, how long do you think it will take before the media blames it on racism or sexism or some type of ism? How long do you think it will take before the media comes out and say they just don't want to watch a black woman's podcast? How long do you think it's going to be? I'm almost for certain it's going to happen. Somebody is going to bring it up. It will be on CNN. It will be on one of these people on CNN or MSDNC is going to say her podcast isn't doing well because they just don't want to support a black woman's podcast. It's going to happen. You can count on it. It's going to happen. No different than when Al Green, you know, showed his entire behind to the United States of America and to the world, gets tossed out. And 2 days later, he on the Breakfast Club talking about, man, they discriminated against me. It was discrimination that they kicked me out. It was because I was black. They kicked me out. That's the only argument they have. That's it. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. How dare you not tune in to Michelle Obama's podcast? If you're not watching, you just don't like women. And it's not just Michelle Obama who's struggling in this podcasting arena. The entire Democrat podcasting movement is bombing. There is a lady who has a podcast on CNN. I'm sure she's making a good chunk of change. And it's been on for a while. Hardly nobody watches it. When she drops a podcast, she gets 2,000 to 3,000 views on that thing. This is somebody that's backed by CNN, got the money, the studio, the all of that, the backing of CNN, not doing numbers. This whole, the Democrat, it's all happening. It's all bombing. Even Gavin Newsom. I mean, this man has been desperately trying to position himself as the next big thing in Democrat politics. He's obviously, trying this big rebrand. So he starts a podcast, and his strategy is bring on conservative guests. While Michelle's podcast is failing spectacularly, Newsom, he's playing a different game. And this is where things get really interesting. Gavin Newsom, the man who destroyed California's economy, let crime skyrocket, and turned San Francisco into a third world hellhole, is now trying to market himself as more of a moderate. That's what he's marketing himself as today. You can't make it up, man.
Stuff that, by the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree.
where did that even
No more Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
Yeah, so let's get one thing straight. Let's get one thing straight here. Gavin Newsom is not a moderate. He's not. He hasn't suddenly woken up to the failures of the leftist policies. This dude is grifting. He is a pretender. This isn't real. This is the same guy who shut down businesses during the C-19 lockdowns while enjoying a fancy maskless dinner at California's most expensive restaurant. This is the same guy who let crime get so out of control that major retailers fled the city of San Francisco. This is the same guy who spent years calling Trump and his supporters extremists, and now, suddenly, he wants to sit down and have conversations with people like Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. This dude is a grifter. It's nothing but political theater. Nothing. And this right here shows you how desperate he is to sell this new rebrand, because even his own side is turning against him now. The moment he had Steve Bannon on his podcast, the radical left lost it. Liberals were furious, confused, but furious, trying to figure out how in the world could this dude let this happen? They don't understand it. Like, why is he having conversations with the enemy?
Talk about Gavin Newsom and his new podcast. And the most recent MAGA guest that he had on his podcast is Steve Bannon. Let's roll some of that conversation.
I think that's a lesson that we learned after President Trump. And look, we disagree on this, but President Trump won the 2020 election, and we were kind of shattered as a movement when he left Washington, D.C., and we had to go back to basics to say, it can't be somebody else do something. We had to do something. And that's where we went back to really a pure populist movement, to go at the grassroots, the precinct strategy, and kind of rebuild ourselves from there.
Well, and I appreciate the notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future.
I listened to the whole thing. It was very substantive, a really interesting conversation. When Steve Bannon says the election was stolen and the Democratic governor of California, the fifth largest economy in the world, does not correct him on that, that surprised me.
And added to the list, right? I mean, there's that moment. And then there were his comments about transgender athletes as well. Different.
With Charlie Kirk.
Right. And then even in addition to all of that, just reverse a little bit, rewind, I should say. And he was also one of the...
Hey, True Texan, I said the same thing when I seen this clip. I said, he got a cut. It looks good. Hopefully he keeps it like that.
Democrats who was going to the border and a little critical of what the Biden administration was doing. So this has been some time coming, but it's at a point now with characters now that we weren't expecting.
Right. And to be fair, Democrats have been trying to get into the conservative ecosystem to reach those voters. That is clearly what he's trying to do. He's got a very, very specific idea here. Charlie Kirk, who was on his show, said, "One thing I learned in my podcast experience, the California governor isn't a joke. He has a shark's instincts, and he is hoping that voters will have a goldfish memory." Real quick.
It's very clear Democrats are not the audience here, and that Newsom's playbook is that no publicity is bad publicity. But this is also a space he's been in before. You'll remember a couple years ago, he went toe-to-toe with Governor DeSantis.
And got his tail whipped. Got his tail whipped so much so that his wife had to go in and toss the towel and pull him off that stage.
Him. DeSantis took up the invitation, and I think he wants to be seen as someone who's willing to step into that arena.
And he's doing it, and we're talking about it. But if he does want to be...
All right, so you also had The View, and I know you guys hate The View. I'm not a big fan of them either, but you also had The View, Sunny Hostin. She was freaking out over this, and I know, hey, Sunny Hostin is going to freak out over everything. You know this. She's saying that Newsom was normalizing election denial and extremism. And I mean, the level of panic that's coming from the left, I mean, it's actually hilarious. But check this out.
Is a poor strategy for Gavin Newsom. I actually did think that he was one of the leaders that would come out in terms of 2028. I remember watching his annual State of the Union address in California, and he criticized Republicans, and he promoted California as an antidote to the poisonous populism of the right. Now he has a Steve Bannon on the show who's saying, you know, you're going to get to populism. There's a long road. He gives zero pushback there. He gives zero pushback, as Sarah pointed out, to really what is a slur against Senator Warren, a sitting senator. He gives a platform and normalizes, in my view, an election denier and someone who is the person who is behind Project 2025. And I believe that, you know, if you are going to be a public servant, you better be unapologetically authentic, because voters can sniff out inauthenticity in a second. And I thought that that was one of the most inauthentic things I have seen Gavin Newsom do.
Wow.
I'm terribly,
so you don't believe in the let them hang themselves theory?
No, I'm terribly disappointed. I think you meet energy with energy. And what he did was he showed his pretty white teeth and his cute face and did nothing other than that. And I think it's despicable.
You can't make anybody from the left happy, man. You can't. And Dr. Silla, you're absolutely right. A lot of the celebrities are getting the heck out of the state because they can afford to leave. They help vote and implement a lot of these policies. They help get Gavin Newsom in, and they realize, like, wait, this doesn't work. And they're out. They're moving to Nashville, Austin. They're moving to places that are, for the most part, you know, historically have been conservative. I mean, wouldn't it be ironic if Gavin Newsom found himself taken down by the very radical forces within his own party? The same Democrats who once championed open dialogue and free conversation are now calling for Newsom to be canceled simply for engaging with conservatives. That's what's happening right now. Because he's choosing to have dialogue with conservatives, they want to cancel his behind. But let's consider why Newsom is making this move. He sees the writing on the wall. The Democrat bench for 2028 is looking increasingly weak. Kamala Harris is a political liability, and Michelle Obama has proven she has little to basically no real influence beyond media hype. So who's left? Newsom appears to be positioning himself for a presidential run in 2028, but he understands a fundamental truth. America is rejecting radical leftism. They're rejecting this far left progressive nonsense. Voters are fed up with the rising crime, high taxes, the migrant crisis, and relentless gaslighting that comes from living in deep blue states and cities. So what's his strategy? He's attempting a rebrand. He wants to present himself as a reasonable Democrat, the one who listens to both sides, who's willing to engage in discussion with conservatives. But it's nothing more than a calculated bait and switch. This dude is a grifter. He is a grifter. And the problem is this: it's not working. because we know who he is. Because the public still remembers the real Gavin Newsom, the one who imposed the draconian C-19 lockdowns while floating his own rules. The one who championed open borders, the one whose policies drove businesses and residents out of the state of California in record numbers. No amount of political theater can erase that record. None. When he had that debate with Ron DeSantis, it was so bad his wife had to go in and shut it down. She went and tossed in the towel because he was getting his tail whipped. In this situation, man, it extends beyond Newsom. The Democrat Party's broader strategy appears to be a reliance on media rather than any meaningful policy changes. And instead of addressing why they're losing voters, they seem convinced that their messaging is the problem, that they simply, haven't spoke enough. And their solution is more podcasts, as if bombarding the public with the same failed rhetoric will somehow change the reality on the ground. I mean, just look at Michelle Obama's podcast, touted as a cultural phenomenon, yet failing to generate real engagement. For years, she was upheld as an untouchable icon, a beacon of influence and power. But you got to ask yourself, was that image actually real? Or was it carefully manufactured by the media? And then you have Newsom desperately trying to pivot to the center, only to face backlash from his own party. And the irony is glaring. Democrats are losing because their policies suck. And yet, rather than course correct, they're doubling down on the crazy. They're doubling down on the performative messaging. And at the end of the day, the American people aren't naive. They recognize political theater when they see it. They know a grifter when they see it. The Democrat Party is in serious trouble, and the empty rhetoric won't change that. Newsom and Michelle, they can talk all they want, but the numbers don't lie. People simply aren't listening. No one cares. No one cares. I got one other story to share with you guys. We got to talk about this fine Friday morning. I want to bring my guy Grasso in. Hopefully he'll pull up here in a second. And then I'm also going to open up I'm going to open it up today as well. I want to get some callers. I want to get some people to pull up today. If anybody is interested, I will drop a link in the chat. I'm going to pin it to the top here. For anybody that would like to come up, you can ask me a question, discuss anything that we've talked about this week. If you want to add anything to what we've been talking about today, great. But we got to talk about Anthony Mackie. We got to talk about Anthony Mackie real fast. All right, I got my guy Grasso here. We're going to take a quick 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Hit that like button. We'll be right back. And I got my guy Grasso. He just pulled up, so we're going to get him in here next. What's going on, Grasso? How you doing today, brother?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. We got you in the car. Got you in the car podcasting today.
Hey, we got work don't stop, right?
I hear that.
When you had texted me, when you had got a hold of me earlier, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I ain't got nothing to happen." As soon as you got a hold of me, the guys called, was like, we need some pipe down here at this job." I'm like, "Oh crap!" So I ran down here. I'm on my way back to the shop now.
I hear that. All right. So I don't know if you had a chance to check this out, but Anthony Mackie, he's been on the media rounds. He's the new Captain America, and he was on the Pivot podcast. He was on the Pivot podcast not too long ago, a couple of days ago, and he said some things. He said some things that I actually agree with, and there was a couple of other things that he said that I did not agree with. I want to share. Each clip. I have 3 clips to share. I'll share all 3 with you, and then we'll watch. And then we'll discuss each clip individually.
Absolutely.
Give me a second. Let me pull it up here.
Humble. I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a. I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open the door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always, since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, you jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, you know? And so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
Hold up. All right. So what are your thoughts there?
I mean, he was keeping it 100, and it was, couldn't ask for more. I mean, that's how I believe you should raise little men. And people forget that 15, people want to look at 15 as a child, but we don't understand. We forget that George Washington was 14 when he set off to survey the West. He was 14. Like, people throughout time has been doing major things at 15, 16, 17 years old. Just here in America and in the West, we have codified and protected our children. Because let's face it, the world sucks and the world is hard. And if we can protect our children for as long as possible, we think that we're doing them a service. But in some instances, I think it's a disservice. Like when he was talking about, his 15-year-old is the man of the house. Well, guess what? At 8 years old, I became the man of my house when my father left. And my mom was there, and it was me, my brother, who was at the time he was 4, and my mother. So when my mother was working at night, guess what? It was me and my brother at 4 or 5 years old. I was the man of the house. There was nobody there looking after us. So I had to grow up real quick. And it didn't hurt me. I would never replace those hard times and those struggles, because it's made me a very aware and discerning man today. Had I lived in a bubble, who knows what would have happened? Who knows what a man I've become? Now, did I make a whole lot of mistakes? Absolutely, I made a whole lot of mistakes. Because I was young and I had no mentor. And the good thing about his boys is that they can do these hard things because they have a mentor. Call me every night before you go to bed. Call me every morning when you wake up. That's the key, is the mentorship. These boys can do hard things if you let them. They just got to have that mentor in the back, making sure that they're not, falling off the cliff. So, yeah, I mean, I think as far as that clip goes, 100%, he was dead on.
Yeah, he's putting it out there that fathers matter and fathers are needed. There has been an attack on masculinity in this nation for quite some time. I mean,
of course,
even going back to before I actually understood what was happening. I'm gonna give you an example. Back in the 90s, you remember the show Martin with Martin Lawrence? You remember the show Martin, the sitcom from back in the day? Great show.
Yeah.
Great show. I used to watch this show back in the day. I bought, and my wife, she can attest to this, I bought the entire series about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point. And I bought the series and I put the first DVD in. It's a DVD. I put the DVD in and I'm watching it. And my wife and I were watching it. And it's like, I don't find this funny anymore because Martin was weak and he was a punk in this daggone show. It was some funny, but I couldn't get through the first couple episodes because I was like, this dude has come across as weak. And when you start looking at TV from the 80s, 90s, it was always a dad that was some bumbling idiot, you know, and was showcased as not necessarily strong and not necessarily the leader, you know, in his household. There was one show, and they've kind of, you know, tried to demonize him. But when you look at the Cosby Show, you know, at least, you know, Dr. Huxtable came across as a leader, as wise, gave good counsel, good advice to his children. He came across in the way that a father should come across, even though at some points they tried to make it seem like, you know, his wife was the boss. But at least he did showcase some leadership qualities, you know, in that show. And that is something that is lacking right now. No different than what we were talking about yesterday with the two young men on that Love is Blind show, how weak they came across because they weren't steadfast in their foundation, in their beliefs, and they didn't relay that to these two young women that decided not to, you know, go forth with that marriage because these dudes were conservative. But honestly, going back and looking at that, I don't know if it was because they were conservative as much as they were not steadfast. They were weak. They came across as weak.
Yeah,
and
women don't want no weak man.
Exactly. So I appreciate, you know, Anthony Mackie saying this, especially someone being in Hollywood, because talking like this potentially could get you canceled. Talking like this. But I want to share the next clip with you. The next clip, you're probably not going to agree with because Lord knows I didn't agree with it, but I want you guys to see this. So it's almost like, hey, he says something great and then he takes like 10 steps backwards. But check this clip out right here.
I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all this shit. And what I realized yesterday thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog. And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that and this is fresh on my heart, like I literally just came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all. There were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster. But somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because of that, I don't know what that emotion or that feeling is the scary thing. Because I went to all the programs. I've done Broadway. I've done off-Broadway. I've been in the business 24 years. I've been in 2 Academy Award films. I've done independent films. I've done major motion pictures. Now I'm Captain America. So now what?
Hold up. Yeah. So like I said, he went from good to bad. Before you go, I want to show some love real fast. Joseph Forsini, shout out to you, brother, for the $4.99 super chat. He says, thank you to the person who gifted me a membership. Appreciate you, man. And shout out to PK Krilling, says Family Matters was lit too. Yeah, Family Matters was a good show. That was. But Grasso, This guy making this statement that you're lying to the kids by telling them that success isn't earned, it's given. It is such a piss poor take, thought, conversation starter, whatever. I really, really dislike this. On one hand, you got a man that's telling, I'm teaching my young men, my boys, how to be young men, how to open the door up, how to be leaders. And on the other hand, you're teaching them that you can't make it. You can't make it without somebody giving you something. He went from showing strength to showing weakness in the same daggone show. This is the same podcast and the same interview. He went from showing strength to showing weakness in the same daggone show. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how someone who can say, I've been in the business for 24 years, I've done off-Broadway, I've done Broadway, I've made it to the Marvel universe, all the way up to your main character now in Captain America, and you turn around and say that, oh, success isn't earned, it's given. Now, one or two things. Is he subconsciously trying to tell us that he had to jump on that casting couch? Is he subconsciously telling us that? Wherever you want to go with this.
Well, Deshaun, I'm probably going to surprise you a little bit with my answer because he was right. He was right. But only for a certain select points of power in your life. You have to work very hard. It's kind of like being a gardener in a war versus being a warrior in the garden. You still have to be a warrior eventually. So the person who trains all the time to become a warrior, even in times of peace, is ready when that call comes, versus the one who doesn't practice or train at all, and then all of a sudden they're staring at a war and they don't know what to do. Hard work pays off, but there comes a point in any progress, any move to the top of a tree. Think of it. Climbing a tree, you have to go past each branch. You can't skip branches. You have to go up to the top. And eventually there's going to be gatekeepers at certain junctions of your life that are going to have to allow you, you're either going to appease them or you're going to have to break through them and break around them with somebody else higher than them to get up to that spot. I see it in business all the time. That's why people like to tell you it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to give the go-ahead, especially in Hollywood. And I think this is where he's trying to tell you this, is that he's trying to explain that in Hollywood, there are gatekeepers, meaning there's producers, there's people that pay the paychecks. And if they don't like you, it doesn't matter how good you are, they're not going to put you in their movie. And so unless you want to build your own studio and build your own brand, like a Tom McDonald in the music industry is showing you that it can happen, but he's one guy. He's one guy. There are gatekeepers in wealth. And that's why in the Bible it tells us you can't serve the world and serve God. You can't serve money and serve God. And that's because what he's trying to tell you is that even back then, talking about the Levites, the rabbis and stuff like that, you weren't allowed into that Levite if, number one, you weren't born into it, or number two, you didn't follow their rules. And so that, I think, yes, he come off, I think what he was trying to say and what he said was two different things, but I understood what he was saying because I know, especially in industry, in construction, I can have the best guys there are putting in fence. But there comes a point where when you're, especially in the commercial business side, if you don't know certain people that are the superintendents and are the guys that are bigger in the construction company, they have to give you the work or you don't get a phone call. I mean, so I see it in both sides. Yes, you can work hard. You can be the best ever, the best at whatever you do. But at certain points in your journey, there has to be somebody there that gives you a chance. Unless you're going to make the whole wheel on your own. Now, if you want to reinvent the wheel, that's fine. But just think about the money and power and influence that is, especially in Hollywood, that they just stop you dead in your tracks. And if they don't like you and you come in and you start making momentum, they have enough power to change the laws to shut you down. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen in Salisbury, Maryland, where a gentleman by the name of Frank Perdue, I'm sure some of you all eat his chicken. A perfect example, it's a college town. And there was a bunch of realtors around his house because he lived in a little, just a little community. Realtors had bought the houses around him and moved a bunch of college kids into those homes. He made one phone call, and the whole law in the whole entire town was changed, and those realtors lost those houses. Why? Because the man was worth $16 billion, and the city doesn't run without his money. This is why you don't see the Epstein list. Because you start locking up these people in the Epstein list, ain't no poor man ever gave me a job, Deshaun.
True.
Rich men do. Rich men make this country run, and let's face it, you start locking these people up, you think your life is bad now. Wait until those big industries start going down and you start showing chaos. The guys that run the media, the guys that run the water and the power and the food and the clothing and the housing. Start making those guys mad and see how bad your life gets. And they know that. They're not stupid. Sometimes you can't just go into a house with a sledgehammer and start breaking walls down to renovate. Sometimes you need that finish carpenter. I know it sucks. It's not right. But unfortunately, that's the way the world works. We live with sinful men. The world's full of them.
And I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I appreciate
I don't like it. No more than you do.
I appreciate you breaking that down. And I understand exactly what you're saying, because networking is important, and that old adage of, it's not who you know, but, or it's not what you know, but who you know, that will help propel you to that next level. And to an extent, I understand exactly where you're going with this, or where you went with it. I do. I didn't like it. To me, we lost him. But to me, it sounded a little defeatist when listening to Anthony Mackie. Hopefully, Garasso will jump back on. I know he's driving. He probably rode through a dead spot. All right, he came back.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
No, I was just saying, I don't like the situation no more than you do. But the reality is we live in a sinful world with sinful men.
Yeah.
That will die for their sinful pleasures.
Oh, absolutely. And I understand, what you were saying, and like I said earlier, I understand networking is important, and that old adage of, it's not, what you know, but who you know, it's out there for a reason. But I think Nina, she said it, you got to get ready and stay ready. You know what I'm saying? Because when the opportunity does, when the opportunity does present itself, you are ready to go in there and perform. Because even that old adage of it's not what you know, but who you know, that may get you in the door, but it won't keep you there more times than not.
That's right. 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
No different than if you go to one of these Ivy League schools, that may open up some doors for you, but those aren't the doors that will keep you there. So when you have someone that says, success is given, it's not earned, I wish he would have phrased it better. You know what I'm saying? Because he made it seem like hard work isn't important. Educating yourself isn't important. bettering yourself isn't important. Like really taking what's the word I'm looking for? Taking pleasure in trying to become the best that you can possibly be isn't important. And I reject that. I disagree with that because the reality of it is this. First off, you can have all the faith you want, but if you're not willing to put the work in, there's not a whole lot God can do for you. But on the flip side of that,
faith
yeah, you're
without
right.
works is dead,
faith
my
without
brother.
works is dead. Absolutely. On the flip side of that, too, is that if you're sitting there waiting on someone to do something for you and you're not even working to put yourself in position, it's all for nothing either. You know what I'm saying? As well, because here it is, somebody gave you an opportunity and you wasn't ready for the opportunity. You wasn't ready for it physically. You wasn't ready for it spiritually. You wasn't ready for it mentally. So, and I think all of that, it goes hand in hand. And what you said, I agree with you. But I wish he would have phrased that differently because the way he made it seem is that you don't need to work hard. You just need somebody to pluck you and say, come do this for me. And it's all going to work out for you. And that's just not the case.
No, you have to be a warrior in the garden. Hands down. You have to be a warrior in the garden. You have to be ready for when the time comes. You have to be able to step up into that role and do the job. You can't just cry that you're being treated unfairly. And then when somebody gives you the job, you fail because you've not been practicing, you've not been trained, and you've not been learning.
Yeah,
you can't. So, like you said, it definitely you have to put the hard work in. And I think he won. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I could see he was trying to say that no matter how hard you work, eventually there's going to come a time where somebody's got to give you the opportunity to even showcase that hard work that you've put in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
And I agree with that because I can look at my own life, you know, my time. I had to work my tail off to put myself in a position where I could be qualified. And then I got an opportunity. And then when I got that opportunity, I worked my tail off to stay there. So I understand. I just wish he would have phrased it differently. He phrased it in the sense of you don't really need to work. You just need somebody to give you something. And I disagree with that. I think you need to work and yeah, you may need an opportunity, but you need to be preparing yourself for said opportunity.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, but there's always going to be people. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule where daddy knows somebody, grandpa knows something, grandma knows somebody. And people are placed in roles that you think you should have gotten because you worked harder than that other person.
Mm-hmm.
But usually what happens in those roles is if they're not there and prepared for the job, they leave or they fizzle out. And that job becomes available eventually anyway.
Yep. Exactly.
So you got to kind of have some patience there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I got one more clip to share with you.
Absolutely.
I got one more clip to share with you. And I don't know why or what this dude, you know, and this is still Anthony Mackie, but let me share this with you and then we'll discuss this one as well.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me how dumb Hollywood is. How do you cast an America-hating actor in the role of Captain America? This Anthony Mackie, who has now alluded to the fact that Captain America shouldn't represent America because Captain America stands for honor and integrity, saying basically that America doesn't represent honor and integrity.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, you know, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
This is another guy, just like so many others I can think of.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I wish, is there more context to that interview? Like, what are they talking about?
What he's saying is they were asking him, you know, just about the role itself. And they really, there's really no additional context to it other than the fact that they were asking about Captain America. And what I got out of it is he was basically trying to say that, you know, America, it's not a great country. It's not an honorable country. It's not a country of integrity. But what I think, and when I hear Captain America, this is what I think of when I think about Captain America. It's, you know, honor, integrity, so forth and so on. And he didn't want to compare Captain America to the United States of America. He didn't see the correlation there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're the greatest, the biggest, the most powerful, the most successful country in the world for a reason. A lot of that is because we had a vision. A lot of that is because of the idea that men and women can pursue their dreams. Now, as far as Captain America's role, I guess Captain America, as a Marvel character, is supposed to emanate this idea, you know, the American idea purely. That's where Mackie got it wrong. Is he's trying to say, oh, well, he's just a man and he's going for these values, but America itself really isn't that virtuous because men are sinful. But at the core of it, Mackie should have stepped back and understood that what Captain America stood for is truly the ideals that made us so successful. So we are successful. This country is a success. Now, of course, with great power comes great responsibility. We've all heard that saying. With great power, absolute power, also comes corruption.
Absolutely.
I'm sure if we went over to the Middle East right now and talked to them how they think about America, they'd probably tell you something completely different than what a man sitting in, Main Street, USA thinks about America. Because of the situation. But that doesn't make it. But we're still great in the fact that when people call for help, Americans help. We are the most giving nation in the world. We give more money to needy people than anywhere else in the world. Everybody else in the world pretty much God forbid you go to India right now and you see homeless kids on the streets being used by grown-ups to get food and to beg for food and to beg for money. I mean, they're being used as pawns pretty much, but they're starving to death.
It's not just India. It's countries in Europe as well. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah. So to say this country is not great is foolish. Because without this country, I can assure you, we are the last beacon of hope. That's why hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people in the last 4 years have come here risking everything they've had just to get across that border. And I can tell you, Deshaun, I'm an American. Thank the Lord, I was blessed to be born here. But had I been born somewhere else, I'd try my darndest to get here too. Because this is the land of opportunity. This is the land of freedom, truly. The last one. This is the last beacon of hope. You've got Europe right now, especially like Great Britain and Ireland and Scotland, who are considered, Australia, who are considered the closest to our freedom. These people are getting locked up for saying mean tweets. These people are getting locked up for praying silently across the street of an abortion clinic. They're not free. They're not free at all. And those things are only tightening. Canada, just go a few hundred miles north of us.
Yeah.
You know, people forget what happened to the truckers when they went over there and peacefully protested. They locked them up. They took their bank accounts. They took everything from them. Like, they're not free. So what Mackie said was wrong. And when you take on the responsibility of playing a role like that, you take on the weight and the responsibility of making sure that you project that beacon of hope, that you're the lighthouse in the world, and everybody around that's watching this needs to see it.
Yes.
Or you don't take on that role. So yes, I agree that he got that wrong.
Yeah, and the thing is this. I am not sitting here saying that this nation is perfect because we're not.
No.
And the goal was always, to become a more perfect union, which means that we are continuously working towards getting better. There's
right.
no such thing as perfection. But as long as you continue to strive to get better, we're working towards it.
That's
and
right.
Grasso, you're absolutely right. I know you served in the United States Marine Corps. I served in the United States Navy. I've had the opportunity to travel around the world. I've had the opportunity to see what it's like in a plethora of other nations. And I tell you this, there is no other place that I would rather be than here in the United States of America, or at least hold citizenship to know that I can always come back here.
I can always come home. That's right.
I can always come home. And I think so many people, they look at the top, they look at the top 1%, and a lot of it has to do with social media. And they'll say, woe is me, my life isn't good because I don't drive a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce. I don't live in a
big house.
Yeah, I don't live in a 20-bedroom, 20-bathroom mansion. But not understanding that if you have running water and controlled heat and AC in your home, you're doing better than 85% of the world's population.
More than that.
And yeah, honestly, more than that. I mean, I've had an opportunity, I've gone to Europe, a multitude of countries, and I've seen the have and have nots. I've got a chance to witness the people who are living in tin shacks with dirt floors. I've had a chance to see it. Somebody in the chat mentioned that before you go, somebody
family. Well, I'll just say this: the average family in the world lives on $6 a day.
Yeah,
that's the average.
Exactly.
$6 a day.
Yeah, and the thing is that what's considered poverty in our country, what's considered poverty in our
top 10% of the world.
Exactly.
Yep.
You're doing better than 85 to 90% of the world's population. What we consider poverty in our country. I've heard people say, I want to go to the place where the poor people are fat. I want to go to the place to where the poor people have $200 pair of shoes and the latest daggone PlayStation.
And big screen TVs and $1,000 phones.
Big screen TVs. Exactly.
AC and heating and food in their enough food in their refrigerator to last them weeks, not days, not
exactly.
Weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah, enough clothes in their closets to clothe 10 people in your household.
Absolutely. And I think there are so many people in this country. We have first world problems.
We do.
We have first world problems. And so many of us in this country are so worried about what the next person has. And we don't take the time to thank God that we are here in this country and just to thank him for how blessed we actually are.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I am a proponent of people joining the military and getting a chance to see the world. Or if you don't do that, maybe go be a part of the mission groups, in your local churches and go and help and go get a chance to see how people in other nations are living. It will give you a greater appreciation for this country. It will. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that we're perfect. We're not. But could we improve?
Exactly.
Yes. But people need to get, a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for?
A reality check?
Yes.
Get
reality,
out of their bubble.
They if people got out of this place, seriously, if they just go do a little bit of mission work. If you join the military, especially if you join the Navy, you're going to travel to some places that are third world. You're going to travel to some places.
Yeah, get a plane ticket.
You're going to see it for yourself. Get a plane ticket and go somewhere. Like you mentioned over in India. I've gone to places in Europe where the kids are out hustling and selling because they make the money.
System. Yeah, people forget the caste system. It's literally the old school days of you have the high society and you have the low society. High society gets whatever they want. Low society gets nothing. And you can't raise above that. because it's not in your bloodline.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the one country in the world that you could start off as a bottom 10% earner.
That's right.
And if you're willing to work your tail off, network and maybe get a little opportunity. And I don't like to use the term luck.
Play the game.
I don't like to use the term luck.
No, you have to play the game.
I don't like to
cultivating
use that term.
relationships.
But you can start off at the bottom 10%. And if you go about things the right way, you could finish in the top 10% in a
100%.
lifetime.
Yep. Absolutely.
In a lifetime. It can happen.
Probably a lot less than that.
And absolutely a lot less than that.
A lot less time than that.
And honestly, you could go from abject poverty, grow up with parents, y'all are in poverty, you are with poverty in the state of what we consider poverty here in the United States. And with making some proper choices and decisions, you will find yourself in the middle class pretty easily.
Or you end up like J.D. Vance. Look at J.D. Vance.
Or that too.
The vice president of the United States come from an alcoholic mother and a deadbeat father in the middle of Appalachia, the poorest area in this
one of
entire
the poorest
country.
areas in the daggone country. Absolutely.
And now he's vice president of the United States. Went to Yale. Like that's the story. That's the American story.
Exactly. As Don King would say, only in America.
Only in America. Name another country he could have went to that made that happen. It wouldn't have, because the fact of where he came from, nobody would have even
where
given
he comes
nothing.
from, not the right pedigree. No, not at all. And
Wouldn't
here
even
he
give
sits,
it. Not even
a heartbeat away from the president with an opportunity to become president.
Yeah, and more than likely, he's going to be the next runner. I mean, that's my opinion.
I just wish people would be more appreciative of how well we have it. And again, I'm not saying don't work. I'm not saying that things can't be better. I'm not saying that. But be appreciative of what you have. Because if you are born in the United States of America, you have been blessed like no other.
Yeah.
You have been.
I would even just give everybody a challenge just to go out and meet the neighbors that are next to you. Meet the people in the next 5 houses around you. And actually get to know them. Know who they are. Know what they think. Because I promise you, you're a lot more like them than you know.
Absolutely.
Like you need to cultivate those small groups, those small communities within communities. That's how you change things. When we're talking about change, we're talking about improving. It starts in the local. It starts in your town. It starts in your apartment complex, for God's sake. You don't have people. Americans tend to get caught up in the big things. Like if my one decision doesn't make a big impact, I don't want to do it. Yeah. When true success is the small victories accumulated over time is where change comes. And so just get to know your neighbors, understand, and just give them say, hey, guess what? I mean, right now in the Midwest, there's a major storm barreling down. Like tomorrow is not going to be good for most of the Midwest as far as tornadoes and wicked weather. Like it's coming. There's going to be people that are going to be without power. There's going to be people that lose their homes. There's going to be people that are in just complete despair. And there's going to be neighbors that are around them that don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be alone.
Which is sad.
They're going to be alone. And it's like the first thing you need to do is make sure your community is tight. What happens if electricity goes out? What happens if Johnny loses his job and the kids don't have anything to eat? What happens when these things it doesn't take much for 4 or 5 families just to get together and go, okay, we know each other's situation. So if things do go wrong, we band together. We have a plan. It's a plan of action. I mean, how many people, we can even go closer to that into your own house. How many of y'all got a fire escape plan? If your house catches on fire tonight, do you all have a plan to get out and to meet somewhere? I guarantee you half of you don't.
Most people don't. Yeah.
Half of you don't. How many of you have all your medications and your allergies and your medical history written down and posted onto the refrigerator? So God forbid you're walking, something happens and you fall down on the floor and you break a leg, you break a hip and you can't get up and go. And somebody calls 911. Where's all your medications? I don't know. It's all in the bag in the bedroom. It's these little things that people don't understand. Like these preparedness, it's a mindset, Deshaun. It's a mindset. And we know these things because we've had to deal with these things. And the military trained us to do these things, to think of these things, to have these action plans. But it's our fault for not teaching the people around us what we know. Yeah. And I take the blame for that. But I know, like, around me, the homes around me in my town, they all know who I am. And I know who they are. And I know who their families are. And I know who their kids are. And I can assure you, if one of their kids is acting up, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to straighten them up. And mom and dad understand that, because God forbid Sophia walked outside and was acting up, I'd expect them to do the same. But you're not going to do that for a stranger. You're not going to do that with strangers. But that's our
something
fault.
that we've gotten away from. That was normal. That was normal back in the day. Yeah. We've gotten away from that.
We all rode our bikes around town.
Yeah, we've gotten away from that, because there was a time when I was growing up. I mean, you knew all the kids in the neighborhood. The parents, for the most part, knew each other to an extent.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that going on. Shout out to Ruth Alderson for joining the ARP family. Thank you very much. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and you look out for one another.
And we looked out, absolutely. Now, I will say, that's the one thing. I'm one of those kind of people. I walk a lot, in my neighborhood, especially when the weather gets nice. I'm always outside walking. So I know a lot of folks in my neighborhood, all my neighbors, the people that live across the street. We know each other. We're on first name basis. We know each other. And in my mind, I'm always thinking, I'm like you, Grasso. I'm thinking, like, if ish hits the fan, the lights cut out, who can I depend on in this neighborhood?
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying?
What is the plan?
Who's with me? You know what I'm saying? If we need to hold the fort down in here, and I got a couple guys. There's a couple of my guy that lives across the street from. I'm not gonna call his name out for me, but former Army guy. There's a couple military folks in this thing that we know, like, there's a number of us that's gonna be able to hold things down.
My next door neighbor,
because somebody's gonna have to step up and lead.
Yeah, and my next door neighbor's got the combination to my gun safe. If I'm not there and you need something, you go get it.
Yeah, I love it.
That's just the way, because he's also
we need that.
He's also a police officer, but it's
that helps.
But those are the people you know.
Absolutely, but those are the things that we've gotten away from. And when you really think about it, when you look at it from a liberal mindset, and you look at it, from more this Marxist mindset, it's a mindset of division, and it's not a mindset of community, in that sense. And what you're describing and what you've been talking about, it's not that mindset. No different than when they were encouraging people to spend the holidays by themselves. If your family members voted one way or another, it's a way to divide. It's a mindset of divisiveness. And the thing is that they understand that when the people come together, it's hard to subjugate the people if they are together. So the best way to control the masses is to divide them in every shape, way, form, or fashion.
Divide and conquer. It's
divide and conquer.
That's the strategy as old as time. United we stand, divided we fall. Like, people forget this. It's like when you start talking about diversity is our strength. No, that's a bull-faced lie. 100% lie. Your strength comes in your unity.
Yes. Strength is in unity. Absolutely.
Strength is in unity, not in division, not in diversification.
You're absolutely right. Man, great conversation today, man. Appreciate you pulling up as
Absolutely.
always, Grasso, man.
So sorry that I was... You're welcome. So sorry I was in the car.
Hey, no worries, man. Hey, we can still hear you clearly. It's all good. You dedicated, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm glad I had good sound. I got these new DJI minis. These new DJI minis, them things are so cool.
Oh, okay.
And
what are they? Are they what is it, a microphone or is it headphones?
Yeah,
What are they?
It's a microphone. It comes with two of them. and they're cordless. You can connect it to the car, you can connect it to the phone, anything. They're just little
Okay.
$169 for 2 of them and the receiver. Bro, I love these things.
That's a little rich for my blood.
$169. Well, you know, ain't all of us can have that paper, you know what I'm saying? Jesus.
That's a little rich for my blood.
Hey, well, I bet if it was a new putter, you could find that $169.
Maybe.
New Scotty Cameron come out and say, "Hey, I'll give it to you for $169."
Hey,
hold up.
My putter is sacred. I found one that works for me, and I have zero intent on getting that thing. Somebody could give me a Scotty Cameron. I'll put that thing on eBay today and sell it. The putter, I got me one, and it works well for me. And I got my lowest score with that thing. I shot a 77 with thing, and I was on fire putting. Because you got to putt well. So once you find that putter, you know what I'm saying, the one that works, you got to hold on to it. So I got me one. And
I bring that up because I'm looking for one right now. I went out this last week. It was nice and warm this week, so I went out and I'm like, man, time to get a putter. Well,
we're gonna have to connect, man. We're gonna have to try to get some golf in over the weekend, man. Saturday on a good Saturday, out, man. We'll come on your side. I know what's the 2 golf courses that's over there on the Eastern Shore? And I can't think.
I tell you one, probably the best one right there is right there in Queenstown.
Yeah, right.
There's 2 courses there. They have the lake course.
2 courses.
Yeah, they have the lake course and the river.
And the river course. Okay. Yeah, we'll get that set up. We'll get that set up. We'll come out. Definitely. We'll come on that side of things for sure. Appreciate you, Grasso.
You're welcome, care, man. Have a good weekend.
You do the same. All right, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, man. A little longer than expected, but all good, man. Great conversation, man. Shout out to my guy, Grasso. Appreciate him pulling up today. Appreciate him pulling up, man. Appreciate him pulling up and adding a whole lot to the stream, man. I definitely appreciate that, man. Shout out to everybody that pulled up and hung out the entire time, man. Thank you guys for, just rocking with me, on a day-to-day basis, man. I definitely appreciate it. I want to make sure that I show love to all the Blues, B and Zephyr K9, T.A. Caskey pulled up for a little bit, so appreciate him for pulling up. All the ARP family members, shout out to everybody that supported the channel today, all the new ARP family members, Ruth Adelson, all the people that received the ARP family membership from Dragon Master Zero. Appreciate them and appreciate you all, man. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe out there. Go do something fun. Get out the house for a little bit. Be safe. Do something fun. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all on Monday. Take care. Peace.
Vibes so